Okay, welcome all of you this morning for the webinar with the title Prefab and Integrated Renovation Toolkits, an opportunity for a renovation wave in social housing, with a question mark, that is. So we will hopefully try to give an answer to that question and discuss the different benefits, the difficulties, and the other requirements for such renovation toolkits. We will look at the latest technologies in this quite nascent industry of renovation toolkits, including also the digital and the circular solutions. For this, we have really a group of amazing speakers today with us. So welcome all of you that have been working on this to drive the renovation wave. We always get questions about what do you mean exactly with the renovation toolkit? And we don't use a strict definition because this, like I said, is quite a new market. So we don't want to exclude any new solutions or any new innovations. But just to have some clarity, we will today speak about packages of prefabricated, industrialized and integrated components, such as prefab insulation, facades, HVAC components, renewable energy system, user interfaces, and digital solutions offered by one supplier or a group of suppliers to ensure quicker, higher quality, and more cost-effective home renovations. One of those retrofit toolkits is actually now being developed through the EU-funded HEART project, of which POLIMI is the coordinator and Housing Europe is one of the partners. And so we will start this webinar with a quick introduction about how this renovation toolkit that is being developed within HEART looks like. And for this, we have Claudio del Pero. He's Associate Professor at the Politecnico di Milano. Claudio, can I give you the floor, please?
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody. So I will quickly introduce the HEART project, where HEART stands for Holistic Energy and Architectural Retrofit Toolkit. So the purpose of the project is to develop a toolkit to renovate existing building, and in particular the focus is on existing social housing residential building. So I have a very short presentation to show. So I'm able. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I suppose you can see my presentation now.
Yes, we do.
So you can see here some quick information about the project. So the duration is 48 months. So we are now almost at the end of the third year of the project. Politecnico di Milano is the coordinator of the project. You can find some information on the website, the LinkedIn, Twitter account if you want to get more detail about the project. The consortium is composed by 16 partners, and we have just 4 research institutions. All the other partners are small and medium enterprises, so it's a consortium strongly based on the skills of SME. We have in the project 5 different key objectives. The first one is to develop systemic and cost-optimal solution for energy retrofit. So we want to propose systemic solutions that are synergistically work together. The objective number 2 is to develop, update, and adapt innovative technologies for their systemic integration. So the idea is that we start from existing commercial technologies. We are not reinventing the wheel. Objective number 3 is to foster the building smart update. We would like to transform existing social housing building into smart buildings. Objective number 4 is to support and improve the decision-making process. So we have a tool within the toolkit to support the designer or the decision maker to identify the best solution to retrofit a certain specific building. And last but not the least, objective number 5 is to promote energy efficient financing, so to give support to the financing sector to put money in the retrofit of social housing building with all the insurance. And here you can see the description of the toolkit. We have 9 key technologies or components. The first one is a multifunctional external thermal insulation to insulate the existing opaque envelope of the building. Then we have retrofit components and techniques for the refurbishment of existing windows, so to upgrade existing windows and transform them into high performance windows. Then we have universal PV tiles, obviously, to generate renewable energy. Then we have a cloud platform that operate as a decision support system, but also as an energy management system after the retrofit of the building. Then we have direct current smart fan coils that are able to provide heating, but also cooling in the dwellings of existing building. Then we have a thermal storage and the battery pack, because we need to store solar energy and to use it during the night or when it's a rainy day. Then we have a direct current heat pump that is the main generator of the building, and also multi-input, multi-output converter that is able to manage all the energy, electricity fluxes inside the building, also to interface the building with the grid. So with this 9 component, we are able to transform an existing building into a smart building and to decrease its energy consumption by 80–90% compared to the current solution. And also we are able to ensure an payback time of the investment within 15 years. So thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Claudio, for this introduction in the HART toolkit. I think it gives a very good overview of what a renovation toolkit is able to do, and also how it includes in different digital solutions. We have been looking within Housing Europe at how such renovation toolkits could be exploited further in the market, and what is the current market in Europe for renovation toolkits. So I will now give the word to Marion here, who has been involved in this research, to tell us a little bit more about it.
So hello everybody, I'm Marion Brunet. I've been an intern at Housing Europe since March, so it's been 6 months, and I've been working on the HART project with Sébastien. And we have worked on a report about the market and the business model for retrofit toolkits in social housing. And so we present the methodology that we had for this report. So the core of our market analysis focused on interviews conducted with both the supply and the demand side, because we wanted to have the direct input from stakeholders that were already present on the market, and to understand how this market is structured and how it could be developed. So we had 7 interviews with social housing providers and 5 interviews with with actors from the construction sector, or with actors working on projects such as HART. We had in total 12 interviews, and at the end, to complete these interviews, we also did some desk research to establish a state of the technology, and also see what other projects were already existing, and maybe other opportunities and barriers for such renovation toolkits in the social housing sector.
Yeah, thank you, Mario. And indeed, one of the preliminary conclusions, I have to say, because this report is not finalized completely, we'll include the main insights and conclusions of today's webinar also on it. but we can already tell you a little bit more about what we find for now. So first of all, there is quite a big interest for these kind of prefabricated renovation toolkits, integrated toolkits, and a lot of the people we spoke with agree that it will be key really to make this renovation wave feasible. So from an economic point of view as well, to drive down the cost of renovations. But at the same time, the market is not mature yet. It is still a niche market that needs to be developed, upskilled more. Another conclusion we found is that from the demand side, so mostly from the social housing sector, it's very important that those kind of toolkits should be adaptable to different type of buildings and also to different type of situations that you can encounter in urban areas, for example, in dense areas, but also that it makes it possible to do incremental, step-by-step approaches. So not a big bang, let's say, where you do a renovation and immediately achieve a deep renovation performance, but maybe something that you can plan and then add the different elements of the renovation toolkits in the coming years. And then the last conclusion we found that was very important is the role of the digital instrument, the digital solutions in these kind of new, very innovative renovation toolkits, such as, for example, the cloud-based algorithm that is used in HART to manage the energy systems, but also decision support systems that can inform you and make simulations beforehand about the investment cost, about the right combination of elements for a certain building, the user interfaces in the new renovated homes. So the role of the digital components is also a very important one, and one that adds really value to the renovation toolkits we found. So I would like to go to the next speaker now, actually, who is Davide Chiaroni from also POLIMI, Politecnico di Milano. He's involved in the project. He's a professor of strategy and marketing at Politecnico di Milano. His research interest is in the management of innovation with a particular focus on energy, sustainability, and smart ecosystems, grids, buildings, communities, cities. And he also studies the implication of the adoption of circular business models, something very relevant we will also find later on. So welcome, Davide. Please tell us, what are the business opportunities you see for renovation toolkits?
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me. I'm really glad to take part to this this panel. I have prepared just one slide, can be put on the screen with some key points that we'll go through very quickly to try to answer to your big questions, of course. What are the business opportunities for renovation toolkits? I think that there are at least 2 points that can be highlighted. The first one is that there are several megatrends that really are converging these days to increase the value of renovations. I know that renovation is around since many years, but currently the environmental approach is becoming much more relevant. We thought in Europe about the Green New Deal. We thought in Europe about circular economy and the focus of circular economy, particularly in keeping the value of assets as high as possible. So the first change, let's say, that is relevant to the topic is that every asset currently matters and makes sense for improving the sustainability. So the way of looking at existing assets as a chance to make a more sustainable future is a quite interesting trend that fits with the goal of renovation. The second key point, I think that is actually coming to life, is the point of suburban change. So cities are becoming larger and larger. So apart from the very city center, they need to reconfigure, they need to give more quality to the neighborhoods, to the parts of the city where the new workers, the new generations are coming to work and to life. So the point would be that this suburban change in quality of life claims for a big renovation in cities, letting more spaces for living, working, using existing assets. And the third point for renovation is the fact that we currently have the technology, we have IoT, we have connected objects, we are entering into data economy. So we are in an area where it is easier from a technological point of view to address the issue of existing buildings, monitoring information, getting data, take value out of even existing appliances or existing plants. So that part is very crucial for the renovation toolkits. And let me just go to point number 2 very quickly. If the renovation is a clear opportunity, and these converging trends are making us reflecting on the value of renovation, there are also some points that are in favor of social housing as a chance for this, as an optimal test field for renovation. And I see at least 3 points. The first one is the phase scale up or the standardized interventions. Many times about renovation, the problem is the distributed ownership of buildings. So it's very hard to get the people converge on an idea of renovation. So from this point of view, certainly social housing has the chance to, let's say, collect the different needs and also to push further the renovation. And also the project Erck is really about this. The second point is that the investment horizon of a kind of actor like social housing is aligned with extended assets lifetime. So it's easier for someone who has a long-term investment perspective to think in a way and support the investments for renovation rather than going to individual owners that might have just a couple of years or 3 or 4 years ahead for thinking of the renovation. And finally, of course, the point of quality of life claims for a renovation that has a social impact, has a community effect. So for this reason, I think that also social housing is the right actor for bringing this quality of life and bringing this renovation of neighborhoods of the cities as a key point. So from my perspective, what I can share with you all is the fact that it's really the time for the next 2 or 3 years for thinking about the expansion of renovation, and obviously a renovation toolkit, so something that can provide service for those who want to start a renovation will become crucial. I think that I mostly say what I would like to say about the key points that are about business opportunities, and then of course I'm more than available to listen to the other contributors and maybe answer to questions as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Davide. That was very clear, very interesting as well, your perspective, and I'm very happy to hear as well confirm the role of the social housing. As you know, Housing Europe, we are the European Federation of Social, Public and Cooperative Housing Providers, and indeed this is the reason why we are holding this webinar today, to understand better the opportunities that the renovation toolkits can bring to our sector. And we also see that there is a key role for the social housing sector to get involved in and drive these changes and this market. So thank you very much, Davide. Now we will go to the first panel of speakers. The first panel is about facing the challenges involved in the development and the supply of renovation toolkits. So this is really about the supply side of renovation toolkits. And the moderator for this panel is Abdelrahim Kairi, my colleague at Housing Europe. The word is yours. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sébastien. So indeed, my name is Abdelrahim Kairi from Housing Europe. And so let's bring in our panel now. We have Robert Lambe, Ulla-Britt Krämer, and Ron van Erck. So let's start from Robert, Managing Director and founder of Melius Homes, established in 2016 to challenge the house building sector status quo and deliver high quality, low energy, new homes and assured performance retrofit using modern method of construction. Melius Homes is currently working with Nottingham City Homes, delivering the first Energiesprong assured performance retrofit scheme in the UK. Rob was awarded the Business Green Leader Sustainability Executive of the Year in 2016. So my question to you, Robert, what are the main challenges that block a large rollout of renovation toolkits from a regulatory, financial, market maturity side, etc.? So
good morning, thank you. Just a little bit of background. So I think the introduction covers generally what Melius Homes are doing as a business to tackle this challenge. Since 2016, we've been involved in supporting the development of the Energiesprong approach in the UK, which is basically a financing mechanism as well as an approach to dealing with the technical solutions. So it's looking at the financial model of the 30-year business plan, so the investment can be considered over a 30-year life. So there's a whole host of different facets that have been addressed within that approach within the UK. And there's still many challenges ahead of us. But just to reinforce and just to go back a little bit on the comments just now from David, I think the social housing sector, certainly as I see it in the UK, plays an absolutely fundamental part in not only dealing with the stock that is held in the social housing sector, which for the UK, we have approximately 28 million homes and 5 million of those are held in housing within social sector. So about a sixth of all housing is social. So not only is it dealing with that proportion of the housing that's so important, but it's effectively leading the path for all of the other types of tenures to be addressed as well. The first and the biggest opportunity, as described by David, is for the social housing sector to tackle this and to create scale and to effectively pave the way for organisations to develop solutions that become attractive for private householders and private landlords to also adopt these solutions. So we've worked through the challenges of bringing together many of the technical solutions to deliver a whole house solution with a guaranteed performance. So all of the aspects that have been touched on today already in the presentations, the physical works that need to be done need to be properly considered. So what's appropriate for the different archetypes that we're looking at, the individual solutions, then the specifications of those works to ensure that they're appropriate for that particular archetype. Bringing them together as a holistic solution and getting them to work together as an overall design solution rather than as individual components is vitally important. And it's an element that's not very well understood, certainly in my experience. The last 2 decades in the UK has been focused in the UK on single individual measures, very much about measuring the number of measures that have been done to properties rather than focusing and considering the outcome and the real benefit of those measures. So we've been looking at the opposite position, which is the outcomes, the output performance. So the challenges that we faced is finding the path through understanding what individual components will actually deliver as part of a full suite of solutions and being confident that we can predict the performance in use, that we can model the performance in use, and that we can be confident that we can put a guarantee to that performance. So when we're starting from that position, it brings in a whole host of additional challenges for us as a solutions provider. So much so that one of the fundamental elements of works that we do is the improvement to the fabric, and use an off-site solution, an off-site prefabricated solution for the fabric. But the UK market doesn't currently provide an off-the-shelf solution for that. Whilst the use of timber frame panelized solutions is widely used for new build homes, it's not, and until we did the first Energiesprong project in the UK, it hadn't been used for retrofit. So we started to explore what the market could provide, and found that actually the only way forward for us was to manufacture the panels ourselves. So we've now established a factory manufacturing timber frame closed panels that we can use for retrofit. Importantly, that we can also use the same system for new build homes. So we've developed a solution that we can adopt on both new build and retrofit. But it was necessary for us to do that because the market hasn't got a solution that is applicable to the retrofit arena, with the levels of control of quality, the aspects of the 3D scanning requirements to be able to manufacture to suit the existing structures, has added a whole host of additional complexities to manufacturing off-site and then installing around an existing property. So there's still many challenges in the technology sphere around the controls and the data and the in-use performance to be able to verify and demonstrate that the properties are performing as expected. That needs investment, and investment will only come with scale in the UK, in our experience to date. There's also elements around the business model and how the investment can be recovered and how we attract external third-party investment, and that relies again on a guaranteed performance. It certainly also, in terms of scaling up, will require underwriting through insurance products which are not currently available. So we've worked through the challenges on the work that we've been doing with Nottingham to the point that we're comfortable we have a technical solution that works. The big challenge is then moving that forward to becoming more cost-effective, productionized, and scalable, and that arguably is a circular problem with scaling up in the first place. So the biggest challenge that we still face is the financing, the affordability, and the need for
minutes maximum.
Sorry?
You have still 1 minute maximum, just to keep the time.
That's fine. So we still need to see a pipeline of work and the opportunities increasing and scaling to attract the investment that's necessary to get the organizations to work through the solutions that make this a more cost-effective out-term proposition. But that absolutely is doable based on the technologies available, as has already been mentioned. We have quite a strong interest now in the UK within the social housing sector, and a strengthening policy position, a regulation position, but that still needs to be increased and reinforced and strengthened to see the scale of the challenge that we face really being tackled effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. So now just to test the microphone of Ulla, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. So
okay.
From the Netherlands, Ulla-Britt, Krämer, thank you for joining us. Project leader sustainable energy for the Dutch province of Overijssel, and responsible for the INDU-ZERO, which is an EU-funded project working on the design of a factory for renovation packages. 15 organizations are working together to design a factory that can produce these renovation packages at an industrial scale. The aim is to develop a blueprint for a fully automated factory within 3 years. So my question to you is if you can share with us your experience, and maybe if you can tell us how mature are the technologies into INDU-ZERO project, and how do you select providers?
Okay. First of all, this project is we are developing a blueprint for a factory. We are not building the factory in this project. Of course, I'm working on to get the first factory built in the province of Overijssel, but that's something which is beside this project, and that would start first in the summer of next year, that we would start with the factory. Sorry, so your question is how far are we? Can you repeat your question, please?
Yes, to share your experience in general, and if you can share your inputs on how mature are the technologies into INDU-ZERO project and how you select providers.
Yeah. So there, we are quite far with the project. So at the summer of next year, we will be finished with the blueprint, in generic blueprint. It will not be in detail, more detail, that it is completely, each machine is developed for the factory. We will have a rough overview of how the factory is, what kind of machines you would have, what kind of products would get out there. So we are quite far with that, but it's not finished yet. For that, you need a building team, and this building team, which would be the investor for the factory, they would take over our stick, which we have developed, and they would develop this factory in more detail, also the products. But for that, you need housing associations. The housing associations, they would be the buyers of the renovation packages. And once the housing associations, for example, would say, we would like to have a 5-year order for this amount for that package, and then the investors could build this factory. So it's always like a, you would say, more an egg and a hen story. So it's the factory first, but they can't build the factory if there is not an order for the renovation packages. And they say, the housing associations again say, okay, prove that you can do it for this amount of money. So in order to change that, you need to have all these different players on board. That's what I'm doing by talking to housing associations in more personal, in the Netherlands and also in Germany, to get them understand, so that you need to trust each other as well, and you need to work together in order to get this factory going. And also then, if you get the first factory going, which is already a huge task, this factory can build 15,000 renovation packages a year, which is huge for current industrialization. But it's small for the task we have in front of us, because if we want to get the 2050 target from the EU or the Paris Climate Agreement, then, or the Green Deal, we need to speed up. And then 15,000 renovation packages for a factory is not enough either. So we need to understand that there's a huge need of lots of these kind of factories, and industry could be one of them. And it's also a huge need to industrialize. Also, by having a factory and having the housing associations ready to buy the packages, we are not there either yet, because we need to industrialize the whole process as well. We are also working in INDU-ZERO on the on-site mounting part, because there's, at this moment, it's 50% of the costs lie in the on-site mounting area. And so we need to industrialize that bit as well. For example, scaffoldless could be a part of that, or drones, and a different way of putting the panels against the facades or on the roofs. So we are taking that in the INDU-ZERO project as well, and seeing how can we make the next step. And also then, if you have that step ready and you have industrialized that step, you also need to get the municipalities ready as well. So the whole process of legislation, what they want, that needs to be hurried up as well. So that's also a step which we need to think of. So in the INDU-ZERO project tries to tackle lots, it can't tackle all, and we have a huge task ahead of us to get the whole industrialized process going, and that means we need to get the housing associations ready, we need to get the industry ready, we need to get the on-site mounting ready, and we need to get the whole municipality legislation ready as well. And if we have all these parts on board and everybody is working on the same string, then we can scale up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ulla, for your inputs. So now, always from the Netherlands, we are joined by Ron van Erck, Head of International Market Development at Energiesprong. Energiesprong is a multi-awarded winning approach that introduces a new standard for net zero energy retrofit packages. Energiesprong teams create markets across the world for an entirely new approach to retrofitting buildings. Net zero energy, quick to install, 1 week, with the long year 30 guarantee of comfort. So my question to you, Ron, what are the benefits of renovation toolkits compared to more traditional customized renovation works? And what is the current experience?
I think now you can hear me. Yes. Good morning, everybody. So what are the benefits and what is the experience? I think the idea that we with Energiesprong have had from the beginning is that we have this huge existing building stock, a lot of houses, but also other buildings, and they consume a lot of energy, and we need to fix that because the houses and other buildings will be there around for much longer than we have time to cut back our carbon emissions. But what we also see is that it's not easy for people living in those buildings or owning those buildings to do something about, that energy consumption. And it's just a reality of how currently the construction sector operates. It's a very complicated process where the measures that we often see sometimes improve it a little bit, but definitely not to the levels that we would need if we want to get in range of our carbon reduction targets. And it's not very clear for people, how they would go about it. Plus, it takes a long time, to get all this stuff done in their house, and it's quite inconvenient. It's not very clear what the performance will be afterwards. So there are all these things that kind of make it very difficult for people to actually go and do something that collectively we kind of agree on needs to be done. And what we said is, look, if we're not able to improve that proposition to people and make it easier and more compelling and possibly also cheaper, it's very, very unlikely that we're gonna see this improvement in the energy efficiency happen, because people are just not going to be compelled to do something about it. And I think the whole idea of creating these what you call it toolkits, I would rather maybe say these integrated packages where basically a solution works together well. So there is a component of insulation, there is a component of energy generation, there is a heat pump, or and that's all engineered and designed together to work well in a house and to provide a certain performance. And somebody can just buy that with, in a shop. Maybe think of how it buys a kitchen in IKEA one day, and it's clear what the consumer is clear what we'll get in return. Now, obviously, from the world where we are today, where it's kind of a more of a craftsmanship-based very single measure oriented kind of marketplace to that maybe future IKEA kind of integrated package that you can buy. That's quite a journey because there are several challenges that you need to overcome. It's not just building a factory where some of these elements can be made, but it's also figuring out how you deal with all the variability in the existing building stock. It has to do with how the supply chain is currently organized that makes the elements that would go into that package. It has to do with regulation that needs to allow for certain things to be easily implemented. So it's a whole system that we're trying to change. But the idea is that once that has happened, it should be much more easy for a consumer to buy such a package. And not unimportant as well, once we start making these packages and we focus really on what makes it interesting for people that own the houses or live in those houses, and it's not just about energy, but it is about comfort, it is about how the house looks, and it's all about things that are more emotional to people's decision making. If we can wrap it up all together and get people excited about it in that way, I think we have a much better chance at scaling these solutions. Now, what's the current experience was the other question. So we've been trying to drive a market, so by putting sort of volumes of stock onto the market and enticing new companies or existing companies to develop and design and produce solutions for these buildings that sort of fit that integrated package approach. And Rob is here, and Melius has been doing that in the UK. I guess the experience is that there is a lot of interest, right? So on the demand side, people would see this as a fantastic solution to the problem that they currently face, right? They say yes. It's so difficult to do the right thing, and we know that when we typically do things, we know that in 5 or 10 years we need to do more because it's not going to go far enough, and even doing what we need to do, what we're trying to do today, is already really difficult. So if you can make it easier, if it's more transparent, if it's quicker to put on site, that would be fantastic for us, right? And we hear this from social housing companies and associations, but we also hear this from private homeowners. So the clarity that the type of solution would be extremely desirable for homeowners and tenants living there is clear. What's also clear is that it's a tough road, and Rob surely can share some of his experiences having been on that road for a while now. The challenges are quite complex, and you need to solve them all before a product kind of is okay. So you can't start with a little bit and then you do a little bit and then you do a little bit. You need to sort of reorganize that whole thing, and then you have the other side where it's quite significant investment, certainly in the early projects where a lot of the scale benefits haven't been achieved yet. So there is significant investment money involved, which makes it also a difficult decision sometimes for housing associations to go along with it. So especially in the early few thousand units in a market, this is a bumpy road, and there is a lot of change that all parties involved need to sort of get familiar with before this goes. What we do see is that once you get beyond that number, I think in the Netherlands, you get into a little bit more of a routine kind of operation, and it starts to get smoother. Not saying that all the problems here are solved as in the Dutch market, not at all. But it is a matter of trying it again, improving, and so on. So that's kind of high level what I would say has been the experience. And I also think that what we recognize is that the offsite manufacturing capability that we kind of try to deploy here can work very well together with new build. And what we've seen, definitely in the Netherlands, but we see it now elsewhere as well, that this kind of can drive new build developments to a very high standard as well. And when those markets sort of work together, it gets easier to bring things to scale. So that's I think that's a good benefit as well, because there are areas in the world where housing, the availability and affordability of housing really is an issue. And I think the use of offsite capacity can help there as well.
Thank you, Ron van Erck, and thank you to all the other panelists. Now we will move to the second panel, and we will take your questions after the second panel. So I will give the floor to Sébastien.
Yes, thank you, Abdul. Indeed, there will be a chance to ask your questions. You can also put them in the chat box or in the special questions part of the this software, the GoToWebinar chat box. We will now go to the second panel, indeed, which is the demand side. So understanding the needs for renovation toolkits in the social housing sector, especially. And for this, we have two speakers with us. The first one is Christian Krainer. He's CEO at Wohnbau, which is an Austrian housing organization based in Graz. It was established in 1950 and currently manages more than 40,000 units. It is one of the largest non-profit property management companies in Austria. So welcome, Christian. Can you hear us? That's the first question. Let's see if we can. And do we have Gordon Watts also online? Okay, where is Christian? No, Christian.
Now I muted him.
Yes, hello, Christian.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly now. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. That's great. I'm sorry that I don't have a video, but the signal is not coming through. Everybody, good morning to all. I hope everything will work out quite nice, even if you only hear me.
Yes.
Thank you a lot
for joining us. And so you've been hearing the different experiences with renovation toolkits that were presented from the supply side until now, and our hard toolkit. Austria is one of the countries actually that is working a lot on innovations to enhance the energy performance of its building stock. And you have also been working on that. At the same time, I understand that there is no direct experience with renovation toolkits in Austria. So I was wondering, what is your first impression when you hear about renovation toolkits and after the different cases that were presented, and also, you know, where do you stand right now in Austria in terms of renovation and maybe some the newest innovations in that area?
Okay, thanks a lot. Yes, it's true. We don't have that kind of toolkit prefabricated, but we are doing a lot of renovation during the last 2 decades. We started at about 2005. There was the ecological touch everywhere in Austria, and out of our system, we were asked to do a lot of renovation. So the average rate within Austria is about 1.5 to 2%, and in the social housing sector, it's quite higher, up to 4.5% renovation rate. So we are doing a lot, but it's not that kind that we already heard. In Austria, we are doing renovation very much individual, and especially in our company, we are going through a system that we call like an asset management system, where we get recommendation what kind of renovation is necessary. We do have a very individual planning and a very individual cost estimation on every project at all. And we are looking through what is the location, what kind of construction is there, what was the original financing to the project, what are the legal habits, and also the economical parts like vacancy, or is it a tenant, or is it the owner? And out of that, we get estimated costs. And normally we decide between three parts of renovation. What we call a small renovation, which is only done for minor ecological reasons. Then we have a bigger one, we call it energetic technical renovation. And the third part would be the fundamental renovation, where you build up like a new building complete. Out of that, we can very clearly do and have an overview about the estimated costs that will affair to the tenants, because the rental fee depends also on the kind of renovation, as we do have the cost sharing parts in Austria. You could say that we are like a whiteboard or a white landmark. We could also be seen as the black sheep, as we don't work on the pre-estimated toolkits. But out of the very individual system that we have also through our states, we have 9 states, and everybody has different legal units. Out of that, it's up to now, right, necessary to do it in the individual way and not in the prefabricated way. Yeah, that's my input to the panel.
Thank you very much, Christian. That's good to hear. Actually, I want to go immediately to our next panelist here, who is Gordon Watts from the sustainability. He's sustainability manager, at South Yorkshire Housing Association since 2014, and he leads the sustainability agenda across all the areas of his housing association, which includes the improving of the energy performance of their housing stock, of course, and also the fabric improvements and the renewable schemes. Welcome, Gordon Watts. Can you hear us? You have to unmute yourself. I hear. Let's see. Hello, Gordon.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good, good, good. Sorry, I think I maybe got my hour time zone mixed up. But
no,
I'm here now.
We're very happy to have you with us.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question that for you, just to immediately dive into the topic, is what do you see as the benefits for a housing association in working with renovation toolkits?
Well, the challenge, I think that one of the key challenges we face at the current time is we have I'm talking from our perspective as South Yorkshire Housing Association, we have a very big age range of stock. We're going from the turn of the previous century, so 1900, right through to properties that were built, in the last year. Okay, so we have a very diverse stock portfolio. We know really the technologies that's right there. We know the pieces of the jigsaw that we have to renovate our properties. The problem is matching the jigsaw of different pieces of renovation technologies to a particular housing archetype, given the huge diversity. If all the homes were the same, it would be easy. You say, right, that is the solution, and we just apply it. Because we're dealing with a very wide range of properties, it's having something to help us, the toolkit is something to help us down the road, deciding what is the best solution for that particular property. Because there are many different ways you could, well, there are not many different ways, but there are different ways you can play the tune to achieve the target performance. So I guess it's that, it's looking at the best way, to achieve the technical outcomes, but also achieve that at the best cost, I guess. I don't know if that, I hope that answered the question.
Yes, thank you, Gordon. Definitely important elements there. I was also wondering, because that is something that came up a couple of times during our interviews with the housing associations, is when you think about the renovation toolkit, you're thinking about a deep renovation at quite a high cost, one-shot investment, let's say. But we are also wondering, is it possible to use renovation toolkits in an incremental way, so step by step? Could you confirm this, that it's an important component, because that would be kind of a middle way between doing project by project, but still using renovation toolkits and roll them out.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good point, and it's a debate we are having a lot here in the UK at the current time. Is, do you go for one big bang? You go from where you start to a fully decarbonised house, a very high energy efficiency house, or do you do it in incremental stages? Now, the elements the two big elements to that discussion are, one is the inevitable money. Can you afford to do the one big step? Second thing is the disruption to customers, because mostly these homes are already tenanted, they've got people living in them. So you've got to consider what customers will tolerate. Thirdly, as the technology evolves, we may think, right, the best solution today to reach the end point is technology A. Sorry, there was some beeping sound coming through. In 5 years' time, the technology options may have changed significantly. So it may be beneficial to do an incremental retrofit rather than go all the way at once. But one of the key things about that is that whatever you do in the different increments, the staged retrofit, that you don't have to undo some of the work you've already done to then do the next stage. So it should be additive and be a clean line between the different steps. So it's a very long answer, I think, to your question, which is, it is something that we are still strongly debating in the UK. Is it better to go incremental or one big step? But in that context, I think it is very useful to have a retrofit toolkit that would help you make these decisions.
Thank you, Gordon. And yeah, that's exactly also what we discussed in the beginning with our hard toolkit, for instance, that includes digital solutions to make those kind of cost simulations based on the different mix of components in the renovation toolkits. I received just before we are going to the conclusions. I received one question. I think it's an important one. It's $1 million question actually, from Özgür Öner from the GDW, the German Federation of Housing Providers. Is what is actually the cost benefit of using renovation toolkits compared to the more traditional you know, project by project, customized, completely customized renovations. And I have a wonderful group of panelists here, so I have a lot of choice for to pick one of you. And maybe Ron or Davide, could you give an answer on this? Now, Ron, I know you've been working in quite a lot of different situations and countries with Energiesprong. Do you have an estimation about, you know, roughly what are the costs? If you only focus on the cost, of course, what are the cost benefits?
Yeah. So I think you have to look at it in two ways. So if you just ask me, you know, what does I'm assuming the question, because we talk about renovation toolkits, I'm not sure if everybody speaks about the same thing when we say renovation toolkits. What I assume is asked here is, can you make a comparison between a very deep retrofit where everything is sort of conventionally changed, so you do full EWI, you replace the roof, put solar panels on it, you put a heat pump in there, you put the vent system, and you do it all in the old school, or at least, you know, traditional way, versus can you do versus a similar type of building where you would offsite manufacture a roof, a panel, and integrated energy components, and how do those costs compare? I'm assuming that's the question, because there is a whole world in between where, you know, you do partial things, and you do like Gordon talked about, you do a staged approach, and so I mean, you know, starting to throw numbers, starting to throw numbers around gets very confusing. Two things I think are important to bear in mind. One, what we say is that if you do a performance guaranteed retrofit, it enables you to give a guarantee on the future energy savings. If there is a mechanism to capitalize those, and you do it, you make the retrofit last for, like, say 30 or 40 years, so you design it in a way that that is the lifetime, technical lifetime of the new house, then you have more money to play with. So you need to look at the cost in a way of what do you save and what can you cheaply finance from that savings compared to the alternative. So that's one element that you need to take into account when you look at costs, right? Because it's not just the investment, it is the overall cost of the whole system that is important to you. And then it's about mechanisms, how to bring that cash forward. So that's one. The other thing that you have to bear in mind is looking forward, right? If you see the amount of work that needs to happen to our stock, and you look at the composition of the craftsmanship sector, and you think 10, 20 years ahead, you know we don't have the available resources to scale the retrofits. And what happens if resources are scarce? Prices go up. So on the other hand, you can think about industrialization. You know, what happens if you keep doing it and you scale? Prices go down always, right? So the question is one that you need to answer both with the whole costing situation in mind and with a future perspective of where you need the world to be in 10 years. And that is the way I think you have to make an analysis whether this is a sensible path or not. And that, you know, if you do one project and you ask them to do it offsite and you compare that to today, and you compare that in an immature industrial world and supply chain mainly, because there is a lot of inefficiency there that you pay for, and you compare it to a very efficiently organized but labor intensive sector in comparison, then you'll probably lose out, possibly even when taking in the longer guarantee if it can be given on a conventional made retrofit.
Yeah.
But if you
thank you, Ron. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think it's a very, very clear answer to a very difficult question indeed, that you need to take account of a lot of different facets of this question into account. So it's not something you can, you know, just put a number on recognize. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. We are already running out of time, and we have one last and very important speaker that I don't want to keep waiting. We have Philippe Moseley with us. Philippe, welcome. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning and welcome. Philippe Moseley is working for the Director General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs at the European Commission, DG GROW. He works on and focuses on the importance of reducing emissions of the construction sector process, increasing circularity, and also looking at the twin green and digital transition as we are now recovering from COVID, and also, of course, within the scope of the Green Deal and the announced Renovation Wave. So thank you, Philippe. We have asked you to share with us your conclusions after this morning's webinar.
Yeah, thanks. It's been really interesting to hear from the various initiatives. The Interreg project that I didn't actually know before, the INDU-ZERO, was really interesting. Energiesprong I know quite well, and it's great to see it sort of going from strength to strength, but we need to see a lot more of it. The thing I want to focus on here is obviously in order to deliver on large-scale retrofit or renovation of buildings, we need the construction industry itself to step up to the mark. Construction represents 8.9% of the European Union's GDP. There are around 3 million businesses. Almost all of them, 95%, are SMEs. It's around 14 million jobs in construction, and we need them to be able to deliver on this this twin transition, digital and green, that we're now going through as part of this. We know, I mean, a statistic we hear a lot is that buildings consume 40% of energy use in Europe, but that is only in the use phase of the energy that they consume while they're occupied. If you include the energy used to extract the materials and to construct and to transport to site and all the embodied energy in that, it's more like half of the energy consumed. So we need to be taking action there as well, and there are already some European Union funded projects working on reducing the embodied carbon of construction, but we are looking to do that further in the future with some various studies we're carrying out at the Commission, and for example, what we can do with the digital transition to facilitate more circular economy principles making it through to buildings. So we have a study ongoing on the use of digital building logbooks, which would be a common repository for all relevant building data, information and documents, and this would facilitate transparency and trust and informed decision making. As part of a building logbook, you would have the building permit itself, the building regulation permit, digitized. I mean, some of this has been done in some countries, but we would like to see that throughout the European Union. There's also a lot of work going on BIM, on building information modeling, trying to increase the uptake of that via public procurement, which is a large share of construction activity in Europe is through public procurement. And there's already a handbook for the introduction of BIM in public procurement aimed at the public sector, which is online, available in 21 languages. We already have also published some guidelines on circular economy principles for building design, and we're following that up at the moment with studies looking at future policy options for circular economy in buildings. And then we also have the Horizon Europe program, which is the new program for research and innovation coming, it's going to come online soon. And that will have a big public-private partnership called Built for People, which will try and scale up innovations like the ones we've heard about today, right through the value chain, and getting all of the different players to work together to get all of these kind of innovations working together. We know it's not just a technological issue. There are all the other things we've heard about today, that the social aspect, the coordination aspect, the integrated working. So this partnership will work to set up some innovation clusters, or to work with existing clusters in every member state, so that we're really getting this this kind of industrial transformation happening everywhere. I think that's everything I wanted to say. I think it's been really good to hear some examples, and I look forward to following the projects that we've heard about in future. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Philippe. Indeed, very interesting to hear your perspective, and also the different initiatives that are taken at European level that will indeed, like BIM, building logbooks, the focus on more efficient use of resources in general, so the circular economy aspect, that will probably help to enhance and develop further the use of renovation toolkits and the industrialization in Europe. And we are also looking indeed at the new Build for People initiative within Horizon Europe that will probably also provide opportunities there. So thank you very much. I want to close this I thought very interesting webinar. I want to thank all the speakers and panelists for attending today, for sharing their views. The webinar has been recorded, and we will put it online on the Housing Europe website and the HART website, and we will join the final report that we have been drafting about the business opportunity and the markets for renovation toolkits as we see it today. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice day, and well, keep on the good work, I would say. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. All the best.